What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Last Epoch video. Hope you're all doing very well. I've got another build for you today. Another really fun build. Another melee build, of course. And this is a Falconer this time, which was a mastery that I was sort of actively avoiding because everybody's playing Falconer. But I think I found a really fun build that is going to work pretty well as a melee build, and we're going to get into it. I'm actually going to dismiss my Falconer right now because he's just going to keep making noise, and it's super giga annoying. So let's talk about what this build is. What are we doing here? We are essentially doing a dexterity stacking Cinder Strike Ignite Falconer, which is a lot of words. I understand. We're going to get into it here. What we're basically doing is hitting enemies with Cinder Strike, and that is going to scale really well off of Ignite damage. Talk about that in a second. We're also attaching explosive traps to enemies because of Hold This whenever we do hit with Cinder Strike, which is really fun. We're dashing around, of course, with Shift, and it's giving us a bunch of extra utility and defense, including a crazy amount of dodge rating based on our dexterity. Once again, just going to hint really quickly. Look at my dodge rating right now. If we dash, we go up to 83% dodge for a second, which is pretty cool. Then we have our Falconer, which we have to level up because of our gloves. I'll talk about that in a second. But the Falconer is mostly just here to give us this mark, Falconer's mark, and a couple of other like utility things like frailty and health, those kinds of things. And then, of course, we have our Smoke Bomb, which is our big defensive ability. This gives us a whole bunch of dodge, a whole bunch of glancing blow, thanks to Shrouded in Darkness. So it gives us those Dusk Shrouds, which are super important to staying alive. That's the main function. It also gives us some Leech. Very, very good stuff there. Extra damage as well. So the build offensively is about you smacking enemies and putting crazy Ignite stacks on them that do a lot of extra damage. Defensively, it's about dodging, glancing blow, and actually block. One of the coolest things about this build is that we actually get to use a shield in our offhand. We are not allowed to use a weapon in our main hand. If you've noticed, I don't have a weapon here, but I am allowed to have a shield. It doesn't count as a weapon. And that's because primarily it's about these gloves here, these Falcon Fists. So these give us insane amounts of Cinder Strike damage and Cinder Strike area when we're unarmed. It also gives us levels to both Cinder Strike and Falconry, and then makes our melee damage sort of scale off of our level of Falconry. So it's important that we have Falconry leveled as high as possible. You can see both the melee damage from Cinder Strike and the area are going to scale off of the Falconry being there. And in terms of its level, we got really wrecked on this one. It's only +2 to Cinder Strike and +1 to Falconry. They can go up to +4. These gloves are completely busted for not only this build, but like any build that involves Cinder Strike, you'd want these gloves, I would think. Even if you weren't benefiting from the unarmed part of this, it's like getting +4 to Cinder Strike and then getting attack speed and melee fire damage is like disgustingly good. Or if you were doing a Falconry build, you get +4 to Falconry. So these gloves to me are just kind of like completely cracked, even if you aren't benefiting from every single stat that's on them. But these are essential to the build. You must have these or else you can't really do the build. And again, my Cinder Strike does 11,000.8 right now. If I take my shield off, it does 11.2. It actually does less damage. So you can see that this, I'm not losing damage by putting on a shield. I would lose damage because if this counted as a weapon, I would lose a crazy amount of damage, but it doesn't. So we get the benefit of also having a shield. This shield is very, very good. Corsair's Boarding Shield, because it gives us 15 dexterity. But there's lots of other shield options you can probably pick from. I'll talk about the gear at the very end in terms of some end game farming you can do, but this is a really good shield just to start with. So let's just run a quick little echo here, and I'll just show you the build in action. I'm only level 60. I haven't quite even... I'm just getting into the end game. Nothing here is, you know, too crazy at this point. Oh, I do need to get my Falcon up. Let's do that. But basically, you're hitting enemies, and I want you to try and notice the Ignite stacks on enemies if they can stay alive for long enough. They really can't. You're mostly running around smack. Look at Ignite. 9. Now we had 9 stacks there. You're going to get so many Ignite stacks so quickly when doing this build because of what we've invested into in terms of our skill points, and I'll talk about those in a second. Missed that. But you can also throw your traps out. Let's go south here. Your explosive trap kind of becomes a cooldown. You throw it out, and it throws a whole bunch of traps, and they detonate multiple times. And whenever your explosive traps detonate, they also will add basically fire shred. So we'll try and... They're going to add fire shred. These guys are all dead. But you can see there was 10 stacks there on that guy at the top. He's got 7. He had like 8 ignite stacks and then 7 of the shredding stacks. So if you don't know, you can shred enemy resistances, and it is a massive deal because it really just allows you to do more damage. You can put enemies into the negatives when it comes to their resistances. So that's really important. That's primarily what Explosive Trap is doing. Whenever we're using a melee attack, we're also adding an Explosive Trap to a random enemy. See, one just went off right there, and then it detonates again. Every time our Explosive Trap detonates, it's going to put 4 stacks of Fire Shred on the enemy, which again increases our Cinder Strike damage, increases our Ignite damage, and it just increases all of our damage, right? It's really, really solid. So we're getting sort of like free shredding, free penetration there just from the traps going off. And then our Cinder Strike is, of course, doing the bulk of our damage. We also have access to the falconry, what is it? Falcon Strikes, which is very, very good. Nothing wrong with that at all. Here comes our Shroud. We'll put that down. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with the Falcon Strike ability yet, but we have to have falconry in our skill set, so we might as well use the Falcon Strike. The strike isn't really that important to your damage. It's another added like bonus, I would say, in terms of your single target damage. It can really pump a lot of damage on like a boss there, which is really nice. So, all right, guys, we're gonna show you the boss fight here. This is the Altar of Flesh. This is the, of course, Monolith boss for the very first zone. I'm going to show you just the ignite damage mostly is what we're kind of looking at here. You can see the stacks ticking up on the guy there. 10 shreds right now and then 20, almost 20 ignites. Hopefully that thing will die. Maybe not. There we go. We'll go south here. So we'll try and throw a bunch of traps this time as well and then get the extra shreds going. There, he's got 36, 40 stacks of ignite already, which is really, really cool. Should just be able to walk away from him. Then we can throw our traps again over here to get the extra damage. You can see the ignite's just burning him down, right? I have this stupid, the stupid belt's draining all my mana. There's 22, 25, just without even throwing the traps. We're getting a bunch of ignite stacks there as well. Okay, so now we'll fight the boss. Throw the traps down, get those stacks going. We're dodging right now. Back up a little bit. And we can just kind of weave in and out. The nice thing is you can work around the trap cooldown and then go back in for like a big combo. And if you need to be out of melee, if you have to like walk out of melee range, which is often the case with a lot of melee builds, you can just walk out and you can throw your traps and then run back in and do it that way. So there's lots of boss fights that really require you to respect sort of that melee range, which is super annoying, but it is what it is. Throw our traps down again, get them to detonate, and then he's just always at maximum shredding, which is 10 stacks, by the way. That's 50% fire shred, which is super good. He's always basically at maximum, which is awesome. And that's just what the build does. It is going to have, you're going to be doing crazy amounts of fire damage, and then the ignite stacks, we're getting up to 40 or 50 there, I think we saw. So that was really cool. So that is how the build functions on a boss fight. I really just wanted to show you that really quickly so that we could see the ignite stacks ticking up there. We'll get back to the rest of the video. That's kind of how the build looks. I was just running through there very slowly, but it does a lot of damage right now. Let me show you exactly how the damage scales. So right now, I want to put one more point into ignition to get full ignite chance. We want as much ignite chance stacking as we can possibly get, because if you guys don't understand how it works in this game, when you ignite something, you put 1 stack of ignite on them. If you have more than 100% ignite chance, you can put multiple stacks of ignite per hit. So if I have 500% ignite chance, I'm going to put 5 stacks of ignite on an enemy when I hit them. And those can just keep stacking up. And as I said, we're scaling our ignite damage with our dexterity because of Firewalker. Look at this. Cinder Strike deals increased fire damage over time per point of dexterity. Right now, let's get rid of our bird again. Right now, I have 71 dexterity. Let's just say I have 70 dexterity, okay? This ability is giving us 6% more fire damage over time per dex, and I have 70. 6 times 7 is 42, so we're getting 420% more fire damage over time right now, and I'm just going to keep scaling this. So that is a disgusting amount of fire damage over time that we're doing with our Cinder Strike. So the upfront hit of Cinder Strike is also getting buffed because of Incinerate. It deals additional fire damage for each ignited enemy that you've hit recently up to a maximum, which is good. And then we're getting Oil Coating, which just increases our fire damage by 25%. And we get multiple stacks of this as we go on. We're going to get some more dodge rating from this. But really, this is the big node down here. It's going to scale your ignite damage over time. So then all we really need to do is try and find ignite chance and fire damage. We want to get as many ignite stacks as possible onto an enemy per attack. So we can do that with this ability because, again, we have plus 80% ignite chance here. I have ignite chance already, only 59%, but this is not including some of my items. So there's some late game items you can get that'll help scale your ignite chance. Calamity is the absolute best one. It gives you fire damage and it gives you 150% chance to ignite. So 150% here plus the 59% here. We're over 200% chance to ignite right now, which means every time I hit with Cinder Strike, it's guaranteed. It actually doesn't even include the Cinder Strike. So Cinder Strike also has its own, right? This is going to be 100% as well. So we have 300% chance to ignite with our Cinder Strike. And that means 3 stacks of Ignite are going to go on, and then each one of those Ignite stacks is going to do 420% more damage. Right now, my Ignite damage is around 200. So if we take 200 times 420%, that's about 920 fire damage per Ignite. Per Ignite. So you can see how this can get out of control. We just keep pumping our dexterity, and that's going to make our damage go really, really high. Once again, with the Explosive Trap, the main purpose of Explosive Trap, we're adding, every time we auto with our Cinder Strike, we're going to be getting an extra trap. The traps will detonate an additional time, and then we have a big cooldown. We can throw all of our traps out if we want to at once, which is really, really cool. But the main thing our traps are doing is they are shredding fire resistance. 4 fire resistance shred stacks per activation of Explosive Trap. So our Explosive Traps are triggering an additional time, which is what I said earlier. So when I throw an Explosive Trap, it's going to detonate once, put 4 fire shred stacks, and then detonate again and put another 4 shredding. So the enemy has like no fire resistance whatsoever. We're basically hitting them for like true damage. Like we're just penning through all the fire resistance, and we're doing crazy amounts of extra damage to them. That's the main purpose of our Explosive Trap, which is really, really good. Our Cinder Strike is there. And then our Dash is giving us a bunch of dodge rating. Our Shroud is giving us a whole bunch of Leech and a bunch of stacks of the Moonlight Bomb, which is Silver Shroud, which is really, really good. So watch my dodge and then my Glancing Blow. Let's look at Glancing Blow. I think it's on defense here. Glancing Blow is 27%. Let me move my camera. So 27% chance for Glancing Blow, and then my dodge is 684. When I put my Shroud thing down here, my dodge goes up and my Glancing Blow goes up. Way, way up, right? So the longer I stay in there, the better. And then if I press shift, my dodge goes way up again. And we get shift back like every 3 seconds. So we're getting that huge amount of dodge every couple of seconds, okay? So that's kind of how the build works offensively and defensively. It's all about those big Cinder Strike hits that are going to ignite. And we're just, again, ignite is not based on how hard the initial hit was. Ignite is just based on how much damage over time you're scaling and how much ignite damage you're scaling. That's what we're doing with our Firewalker. I'm going to move my camera back again. Sorry. And again, just adding as many ignite stacks per second is what we're trying to accomplish. On boss fights, we end up getting tons and tons of stacks, which is super cool. Let me just finish off with defense really quickly. Primarily, we're looking at dodge rating and Glancing Blow. Glancing Blow is a really, really big rogue mechanic. We get a bunch of it from here. We're also getting a chance to block because, as I said earlier, we are able to wear a shield. So we have block chance, block effectiveness. That's actually very, very good. It's going to stop a bunch of damage from coming through. And then all of our abilities here are also giving us additional dodge and Glancing Blow, which is super cool. It's mostly about this ability here, which is the Dusk Shroud, and you also get that in the Blade Dancer tree. So we do go into the Blade Dancer tree to get Cloak of Shadows and Shroud of Dusk, and Veil of Night is the big one. This gives us melee attack speed, which is good, but it gives us a chance on hit to get a Dusk Shroud. And Dusk Shrouds give you 50 dodge rating per shroud and 5% chance to receive glancing blow. So your glancing blow goes way up and your dodge goes way up as you're hitting enemies. So that's the primary reason that we're into the Blade Dancer tree. Also, it's going to be giving us melee damage and then dexterity. Again, dexterity, dexterity, dexterity. We are just scaling that as hard as we possibly can. I have more dexterity here, right there. I have more dexterity down here. And we're going to scale our armor eventually with dexterity, with Stymphalian feathers. Like, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. It's all about scaling your dexterity and using that to give a big ignite to the enemy. That's what we're doing. And that's the whole build basically in a nutshell, which is super cool. Just to round out the passives, there's some important passives coming up. We're going to finish off getting our block from Deflect and Weave. I don't know if I'm going to go all the way into this and convert all of my block chance into Glancing Blow. It's probably a good idea, but I'm not entirely sure yet because that would kind of defeat the purpose of having a shield. So we'll figure it out. There's more dodge rating here that we're going to get. This big node right here is Sky Assassin. We're going to get more damage over time. This is massive for our fire damage over time. That's what we're scaling. So we're going to get about 35%. No, 7 times 7. So 49% chance, more damage over time, sorry. And then we're going to get this again, which is going to give us more armor per dexterity. We're scaling that, of course. And then we have Tailwind, which is the big one. That's more defensive, more movement speed, more dodge. Your passive tree is kind of weird. It's really all about defense and then dexterity. That's almost all that you're getting out of your passive tree. You're just trying to grab as much dex as you possibly can and scale that. And we're gonna go back and grab more, I think, in the beginning here. Like, once I've got my Falconer tree all the way to the end, I'm going to go back and get Steady Hand. I might even go over to Marksman and get Focus Fire because, again, this is good. It's just more dexterity, which is more ignite damage. So it's a very easy tree to scale. You don't have to think about anything. Just type in Dex up here and then grab whatever nodes have Dex on them, basically, is what you're looking at. One thing to avoid, though, you do not use a weapon on this build. Little disclaimer, right? So do not grab any of the nodes that increase your damage when you have like a certain weapon, or obviously dual wielding. We're not dual wielding anymore. You might take Twin Blade early on when you're leveling. Once you get to the late game, once you get these Falcon fists going, you do not want to be having that anymore, obviously, because you're not dual wielding anymore. So just be careful with some of the nodes that you're speccing as you go along. You might have to unspec them later, which is not a big deal. That's just kind of the way that this goes, okay? Let's talk about the end game stuff. What do you really want to be getting? The biggest thing, of course, is a high-level Falcon Fist gloves. You need to get Falcon Fist that have +4 to Cinder Strike and +4 to Falconry. There are so many extra little pieces that you can grab in the Cinder Strike tree that are going to help you. Extra dodge rating over here, which is really, really cool. Extra oil coating fire penetration down here. There's a lot of really good nodes. You can also shred fire res over here. Like, there's just a ridiculous amount. You could do the burning dagger stuff, but it's not as important. It's mostly just going to be about some of these other nodes over here. Very, very important to get lots of points for Cinder Strike. And then the big one, you need to get multiple extra points into Falconry because these gloves scale your damage while you're unarmed with the level of Falconry itself. The actual level of the skill is what you're looking for in terms of scaling your damage. Calamity is a huge unique that you need to find. I actually literally just found one a couple maps ago, which was very lucky, but this is like a level 7 unique. It's very common. It gives you so much extra chance to ignite, which is all we really need with this build. Find chance to ignite on as much as you possibly can. The passive tree has no chance to ignite at all. If you type in ignite, there's literally nothing in here. There's some for Marksman, but it's a very different thing. It's really nothing. So you need to find it on your gear. And if you're looking at crafting, if you just type ignite into the crafting window here, you can see increased fire damage and ignite duration can go on your helmet and body armor. Those are like end game stats. You really do want to find those. Chance to ignite on hit can go on all the weapons, but we don't have a weapon. So instead, we're going to be looking at amulet and potentially a quiver, but really the amulet is the big one. You need to have an amulet that's going to have chance to ignite on it, and I don't have that yet. So again, that's a big piece of gear that you're gonna have to try and find extra ignite chance on. And then you might potentially want to wear a quiver instead of a shield if that's going to provide you with a lot of ignite chance, right? That would be something you'd be looking at. Calamity is a good legendary or unique to find. You need to get the Falcon Fist. This belt was okay. It does give you fire damage. I don't really like it, though. It gives you this extra False Water Fury, extra melee fire damage. It's actually not that important. It looks really, really overpowered for this build. I'm trying it right now. It's not really a big deal. I promise you, it doesn't really matter. So you don't actually have to get this belt, but it does have fire damage on it, which is pretty cool. Wings of Argentus is a huge unique that you basically need to find. I'm going to show you it on the screen here. So if we type in, I typed in fire damage there. Where's the chest? There it is here. So this is the unique chest plate. It's got melee fire damage on it. It's got +2 to the level of fire melee skills, which is Cinder Strike. Massive, massive deal. This is your end game, unique chess piece that you need to find, okay? Very, very important. Again, Calamity is super good. There's the Fire Dragon shoes, which are down here. These are pretty good as well. You get fire resistance, movement speed, and then you get fire penetration with Ignite specifically. So more pen. Might not even need it. There might be enough pen just with our skills already, but it does give you fire damage. This is kind of like a mid. It's kind of whatever. It's a cool pair of boots, but you're probably going to find a better pair of boots. I don't think fire damage can roll on boots naturally. So that is something to think about, right? If we just type in fire damage. Let me see here. Fire damage. No, it can go amulet, ring, relic, belt, and bow, and then other weapons. Excuse me. So this cannot roll on boots. So that is the big advantage to these boots, is that they actually have fire damage on them, which you might want to think about. Those are basically the big uniques that you want to be looking at. And then there is, of course, the Black Sun timeline. You want to get the blessing from there. So if we go to Monolith Fate, if we look at the Black Sun blessings, there is a fire or ignite chance one here. 100% chance to ignite on hit. So again, I already have 300%. This can take us to 400% with better gear and amulet that has ignite chance. We can probably get up to 600-700% chance to ignite, and then we're adding 7 stacks of ignite on each hit. So this is the kind of stuff that you want to look for. Farm the Black Sun timeline to get the ignite. This is what I'm going to be doing with this character. Those are the big ones, I would say. There is, I think, the Rhea's Light, which is a shield. Let me just shield really quickly here. Rhea's Light is down here somewhere. There it is. So this is another one. Block chance, block effectiveness, increased fire damage. 75% more fire damage. That might be something you want to. It does have +1 to level of judgment. I understand that. That's kind of useless for us. But the fire damage is pretty insane. So something else to think about. But that's the build in a nutshell, guys. You're running around. You are smashing people with your Cinder Strike. And then if you need a big AoE cooldown, you can throw out a bunch of explosive traps. They're going to detonate twice. They're shredding enemy fire resistance, like a lot of shredding. They're doing a lot of damage on their own. But really, the big end game damage, what you're going to scale into the end game, is the Ignite from Cinder Strike because of this note here, Firewalker. This does so much work for you. So I would encourage you guys, get things like damage over time, get fire damage, get ignite chance. Those are the 3 big things that are going to scale your damage into the end game. And then you just have to get levels on falconry to buff the damage that's coming out from your Falcon Fist. So very, very fun build. I love playing it. I love that there's a melee version of this, because right now there's like a bow version of the explosive trap, right? Because of impact trigger and blast rain. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to try a melee version. This is a really fun melee version. I promise you it works. It's pretty tanky when you're in your smoke bomb and you have lots of dodge, lots of glancing blow, block chance, lots of ignite damage. It's really fun. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm going to be trying to get this into the actual end game. I just wanted to do a video as I was getting into the early end game to show you guys kind of what it's all about. I hope you guys, if you want to try it out, drop a comment down below. Let me know any questions you might have about the build. I would be happy to answer them. Thank you so much again for watching. Love you all. I will see you in the next one.